The champagne glass shattered against marble. Blood pooled beneath her knees as she knelt in her childhood home, wedding dress torn, mascara streaking her hollow cheeks. Her sister's laughter echoed through the ballroom, where 300 guests had gathered to witness her humiliation. The man she'd sacrificed everything for stood beside her replacement, his hand wrapped around another woman's waist. She'd given him 12 years. 12 years of invisible devotion, of swallowed pride, of being the family's forgotten daughter. Tonight, she'd finally learned the truth about the accident that had stolen her voice and her identity, and tomorrow, she would disappear. But this wasn't how her story began. Emma Whitmore learned early that love was conditional. At 6 years old, she watched her parents celebrate her sister Victoria's piano recital with tears of joy. That same week, Emma brought home straight A's to silence. The family's attention belonged to Victoria, the golden daughter, the one destined for greatness. Emma became the shadow, the afterthought, the girl who existed to make her sister shine brighter. When Emma turned 18, her grandfather pulled her aside at a family dinner. Charles Whitmore was the only person who ever truly saw her. He pressed a worn envelope into her hands. Inside, a letter outlined her inheritance, 20% of Whitmore Industries, to be transferred upon her marriage to a man he'd chosen. A business partner's grandson, someone who'd built himself from nothing, someone who understood what it meant to be overlooked. His name was Daniel Cross. Emma met him 3 weeks later at a corporate gala her family forced her to attend. He stood apart from the crowd, uncomfortable in his tailored suit, watching the room with quiet intensity. When she approached, he didn't pretend to know her name. He didn't confuse her with Victoria. He simply asked if she wanted to leave. They drove to a diner on the edge of town and talked until sunrise. Daniel told her about growing up in foster care, about scholarships and night shifts, and the constant hunger to prove himself worthy. Emma told him about being invisible in a house full of people. Before they parted, he asked if he could see her again. She said yes. Their relationship bloomed in stolen moments. Coffee before work, late-night phone calls, weekends exploring the city on foot because Daniel couldn't afford much else. Emma didn't care. For the first time, someone chose her. Someone saw her. When Daniel proposed after 3 years, she cried not from joy, but from relief. Finally, proof that she deserved to be loved. But Victoria had other plans. The week before Emma's wedding, her sister announced she was dating Marcus Chen, a rising tech entrepreneur who'd recently suffered a devastating car accident. The crash left him with permanent nerve damage in his right leg and a dependency that Victoria wore like a badge of honor. She paraded him through family dinners, her hand perpetually on his arm, her voice dripping with performative concern. Emma's mother began making comments, subtle at first. Wouldn't it be more practical to postpone the wedding until Victoria's situation stabilized? Marcus needed constant care. Victoria was so devoted. Emma shouldn't be selfish. The comments grew sharper. Daniel came from nothing. No family, no connections, no real prospects beyond his middle management position at Whitmore Industries. Meanwhile, Marcus's tech startup was attracting serious investors despite his injury. Her father was more direct. He pulled Emma into his office the night before her rehearsal dinner. "Daniel's too proud," he said. "He refuses the promotions I offer. He won't accept our help." What kind of husband refuses to let his wife's family provide? Emma defended Daniel. She explained that he wanted to earn his position, that his pride came from self-respect. Her father's response was cold. "Then he'll drag you down to his level." The wedding day arrived heavy with tension. Emma's hands trembled as she adjusted her veil. Victoria burst into the bridal suite without knocking, Marcus leaning heavily on her shoulder. "Emma, we need the car," Victoria announced. "Marcus is having a pain flare. The medication isn't working. We need to get to his specialist immediately." Emma stared at her sister. Victoria's wedding was scheduled for 6 months later. The specialists could wait one day. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Of course," she whispered. "I understand. Your wedding is more important than Marcus's suffering. Emma, he might need emergency surgery, but you look beautiful. I'm sure Daniel will wait." Emma felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the crushing weight of being reasonable, of being understanding, of always putting others first. She looked at Daniel through the window, greeting guests with nervous energy. She thought about the life they'd planned, the small apartment they'd picked out together, the compromise of her staying at Whitmore Industries to help him advance his career. She made her decision. The ceremony proceeded. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Victoria stood with practiced drama. Emma watched her sister limp toward the altar, supported by a grimacing Marcus. "I'm so sorry," Victoria sobbed. Marcus collapsed. "I called an ambulance, but Emma, we need the bridal car. It's the only one large enough to fit him lying down. Please." Emma felt 300 pairs of eyes burning into her. Her mother's pleading expression, her father's stern disapproval. Daniel's hand tightened on hers. "Emma," he whispered, "it's okay. We can wait." But she couldn't. The pressure, the expectations, the lifetime of being invisible crashed over her. She stepped away from Daniel and nodded to her sister. Victoria's relief seemed genuine. Marcus was loaded into the decorated car, white ribbons fluttering as it sped away. Emma stood in her wedding dress watching her moment disappear. Daniel approached slowly. He didn't say anything, he didn't need to. Emma saw the understanding in his eyes, the resignation. When he finally spoke, his voice was gentle. "You'll always choose them over me." She opened her mouth to deny it, but the words stuck. Daniel walked back down the aisle alone. Emma's mother appeared at her elbow. "We'll reschedule, dear, once everything settles down." But Emma knew better. Victoria's crisis would stretch into weeks, then months. There would always be another emergency, another reason to wait, another test of Emma's devotion to family. She removed her veil and folded it carefully. The reception hall emptied. Staff began breaking down centerpieces. Emma's phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Marcus is fine. Just needed his afternoon medication. Thanks for understanding, Em. You're the best sister ever." Emma read the message 3 times. Her hands shook so violently she dropped the phone. It shattered against the floor, screen splintering like her composure. She'd given up her wedding for medication that could have waited 3 hours. Daniel found her in the empty hall an hour later. His tuxedo jacket was gone, tie loosened. He'd stayed. Part of her wished he hadn't. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Daniel shook his head slowly. "Emma, I love you. I've loved you since that first night at the diner. But I can't compete with your family. I can't marry someone who'll always put me last." Emma felt something crack inside her chest. She wanted to argue, to promise she'd change, to swear he mattered most. But the words wouldn't come, because he was right. She'd proven it today. Daniel pulled a small box from his pocket, the engagement ring. He placed it on the table between them. "I hope someday you choose yourself," he said quietly. Then he left. Emma sat alone in her wedding dress until the cleaning crew arrived at midnight. They found her exactly where Daniel had left her, staring at the ring, tears dried on her cheeks. One worker asked gently if she needed help. Emma stood mechanically and walked out. She didn't go home. Instead, she drove to the only place that had ever felt safe. Charles Whitmore's grave sat on a hillside overlooking the city. Emma collapsed against the headstone and finally let herself break. She cried for the grandfather who'd seen her worth. She cried for Daniel walking away. Most of all, she cried for herself, for the girl who'd spent 21 years begging for scraps of attention. "Grandfather," she whispered to the cold marble, "I don't know how to stop disappearing." The wind picked up, scattering dead leaves. No answer came. Emma stayed until dawn. The following months dissolved into grey routine. Emma returned to Whitmore Industries, where Daniel still worked 3 floors below her. They developed an unspoken system, timing their arrivals and departures to avoid encounters. When they passed in hallways, Daniel's gaze slid past her like she was transparent. Emma told herself it was easier this way. She almost believed it. Victoria's relationship with Marcus intensified with theatrical flair. Every family dinner featured updates on his recovery, his bravery, his devotion. Emma's mother beamed with pride. Finally, Victoria had found someone worthy. Emma pushed food around her plate and counted ceiling tiles. Her father asked once about rescheduling her wedding. Emma said she needed time. He never asked again. 3 months after the cancelled ceremony, Emma received notice that Charles Whitmore's will was under legal review. The inheritance he'd promised required proof of marriage within 2 years of his death. The deadline was approaching. Without marriage, the shares would default to Victoria. Emma stared at the letter for hours. Her grandfather's final gift, designed to secure her independence, would instead strengthen her sister's position. She made an appointment with Daniel's supervisor. Purely professional, she told herself. The company needed analysis on quarterly projections. She definitely wasn't engineering a meeting. Daniel arrived exactly on time, surprise flickering across his face before professional neutrality settled. They worked side by side for 4 hours. Every accidental touch felt like electrical current. When Daniel reached past her for a report, his cologne triggered memories so visceral Emma's hands went numb. The work became an excuse. Emma requested Daniel's input on projects he wasn't assigned to. She scheduled meetings that could have been emails. Daniel never refused, but he never engaged beyond necessity. His walls were fortress thick. Emma respected them even as she ached to scale them. She told herself she was pathetic. She did it anyway. Victoria announced her engagement to Marcus during Sunday brunch. The family erupted in celebration. Emma's mother cried happy tears. Her father ordered champagne. Victoria glowed with triumph, her ring deliberately positioned to catch light. Emma offered congratulations that tasted like ash. Marcus smiled at her, something calculating in his expression. "Thank you, Emma, for everything." The wedding planning consumed the household. Victoria needed Emma's opinion on flowers, venues, dresses. Emma gave feedback mechanically, her voice operating separately from her consciousness. During a cake tasting, Victoria grabbed Emma's hand. "I'm so glad we're doing this together," she gushed. "You're my maid of honor, obviously." Emma nodded. What else could she do? The night before Victoria's bachelorette party, Emma worked late at the office. She'd volunteered for weekend duty, anything to avoid the celebration. The building was nearly empty when she heard footsteps. Daniel appeared in her doorway, surprise evident. "I thought you'd be at your sister's party." Emma shrugged. "Not my scene." They stood in uncomfortable silence. Daniel moved to leave. Emma's voice stopped him. "I'm sorry." He turned slowly. "For what?" "For everything," Emma whispered. "For choosing them. For not fighting for us. For wasting your time." Daniel's expression softened dangerously. "You didn't waste my time, Emma. You taught me that I deserve someone who chooses me first." The words hit like physical blows. Emma absorbed them, accepted them, felt them settle in her bones. "You do deserve that." Daniel nodded. "I know." Then he was gone. Emma finished working at 3 in the morning. She drove home on autopilot, her mind replaying Daniel's words. In her apartment, she stood before the mirror. Dark circles carved hollows beneath her eyes. She'd lost weight, her clothes hanging loose. When had she started disappearing physically as well as emotionally? The thought terrified her more than it should. Victoria's wedding day arrived with perfect weather. Emma helped her sister dress, adjusting her veil, fastening tiny buttons. Victoria chatted excitedly about honeymoon plans. Emma made appropriate noises. At the ceremony, she stood beside the altar and watched Marcus promise forever to her sister. She didn't see Daniel in the crowd. He'd requested vacation time, his assistant had mentioned. Smart man. The reception blurred. Emma danced with relatives who confused her with Victoria. She smiled through speeches praising her sister's devotion to Marcus's recovery. During the father-daughter dance, Emma's dad caught her eye. "You could have this too," his expression said, "if you just made yourself available." Emma excused herself to the bathroom and didn't return for an hour. She found refuge in a maintenance hallway, sitting on cold floor, head against concrete. Her phone showed 17 missed calls from her mother. Emma turned it off. She couldn't do this anymore, couldn't smile through another celebration of Victoria's perfection, couldn't watch her family worship her sister's performative compassion while Emma's genuine sacrifice went unnoticed. She couldn't keep disappearing. A notification appeared before the phone died completely. An email from Charles Whitmore's attorney. Final notice regarding inheritance deadline. Emma had 6 weeks. 6 weeks to marry or lose everything her grandfather had tried to give her. 6 weeks to choose herself or vanish completely. She read the email twice. Then she stood, smoothed her bridesmaid dress, and walked back into the reception. She knew what she had to do. She just didn't know if she had the courage. Block 03. Emma spent the next week in mechanical precision. She arrived at the office early, left late, spoke only when necessary. Colleagues noticed her withdrawal, but nobody asked questions. Emma preferred it that way. On Thursday, she requested a meeting with the company's legal team. She needed to understand the exact terms of her grandfather's will. The attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Moore, laid it out clearly. Charles Whitmore had structured the inheritance to protect Emma from family pressure. The shares transferred only upon legal marriage, with specific clauses preventing Victoria or her parents from contesting. Patricia studied Emma carefully. Your grandfather knew your family well. He wanted you to have independence, power. Emma absorbed this, power she'd never wanted, never sought. Yet here it was, slipping away. She asked Patricia about alternatives. Could the deadline be extended? Could she negotiate different terms? Patricia's answer was firm. No. The will was ironclad. Marry within 6 weeks, or the shares default to Victoria permanently. Emma thanked her and left. She walked through the city for hours, her mind churning. Marriage required a willing partner. Daniel had made his position clear. She couldn't blame him. Emma considered her options with brutal honesty. She could find someone desperate enough to enter a business arrangement, a marriage of convenience. She had enough money saved to make it worthwhile for the right person. The thought made her nauseous, but she couldn't dismiss it. Her grandfather's legacy shouldn't be wasted because she'd been too weak to fight for her own wedding. That Friday, Emma attended a company networking event she'd normally avoid. She nursed one drink and observed. Men in expensive suits competed for attention. Women clustered in practiced groups. Emma felt alien here, watching people perform. Then she saw him. Daniel stood near the bar, deep in conversation with someone Emma didn't recognize. Professional, distant, completely composed. Emma's courage crystallized. She approached before she could reconsider. Daniel noticed her immediately, his body language shifting to guarded. Emma, he said neutrally. Can we talk? She asked. Privately. Something in her tone must have registered. Daniel excused himself and followed Emma to a quiet alcove. What is it? Emma took a breath. I need your help, she explained quickly, clinically. The inheritance, the deadline, the stakes. Daniel listened without interrupting. When Emma finished, silence stretched between them. Finally, Daniel spoke. You want me to marry you for business? Emma flinched at the phrasing but didn't deny it. I know what I'm asking. I know it's unfair, but I'm desperate, Daniel. I can't let everything my grandfather tried to give me go to Victoria. Daniel's expression was unreadable. What's in it for me? Emma had prepared for this. 20% of Whitmore Industries shares generate substantial dividends. I'd split them with you. You'd have financial security. Plus, the marriage would be temporary. We could divorce after 1 year. Daniel absorbed this information. He didn't answer immediately. Emma felt each second of his consideration like eternity. Finally, he spoke. I need time to think. Emma nodded, accepting. Take whatever time you need. But the deadline, Daniel interrupted. Here's in 6 weeks, I know. Emma left the event immediately. She couldn't stay, couldn't watch Daniel weigh her proposal like a business transaction. Which it was, she reminded herself harshly. She'd reduced their relationship to terms and conditions. What else could she expect? 3 days passed with no word. Emma threw herself into work, volunteering for every project available. Her mother called repeatedly. Emma let it go to voicemail. Victoria texted updates about married life. Emma deleted them unread. She was building walls, constructing the emotional fortress she should have created years ago. If Daniel refused, she'd find another solution. She had to. On the 4th day, Daniel appeared in her office doorway. His expression gave nothing away. Emma stood slowly, heart hammering. Yes, he said simply. I'll do it. Emma felt relief, so intense her knees weakened. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel held up a hand. "Conditions. This is purely business. We live separately. No emotional entanglement. After 1 year, we divorce cleanly. You get your inheritance, I get financial compensation. Agreed." Emma agreed to everything. They spent the next hour with Patricia Moore, drafting a prenuptial agreement that outlined every detail. Patricia raised eyebrows but said nothing. She'd seen stranger arrangements. The contract was ironclad. 1 year marriage of convenience. Financial compensation structured as consulting fees to avoid complications. Clean dissolution with no contest. Emma and Daniel signed. They scheduled the ceremony for 2 weeks later. Small, simple courthouse wedding. Emma told her family she was marrying Daniel after all, that they'd reconciled privately. Her mother's joy was effusive. Her father seemed pleased. Victoria called immediately. "Emma, that's wonderful. But are you sure? He doesn't have Marcus's prospects." Emma ended the call quickly, her decision firm. The 2 weeks passed in surreal anticipation. Emma and Daniel met twice to finalize logistics. Their interactions remained painfully professional. Emma ached for the easiness they'd once shared, but didn't push. She'd burned that bridge. This was business now. She needed to accept it. The night before the wedding, Emma couldn't sleep. She stared at her ceiling, trying to convince herself this was right. She was choosing herself finally, claiming what her grandfather wanted her to have. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like surrender. But she'd learned that sometimes survival required compromise. Morning arrived grey and cold. Emma dressed in a simple cream dress, no veil, no celebration. She met Daniel at the courthouse. He wore a dark suit, expression neutral. They signed papers, exchanged vows that meant nothing, became legally bound. Patricia Moore served as witness. The whole process took 20 minutes. Afterward, standing on courthouse steps, Daniel asked, "Do you want to get lunch?" Emma shook her head. "I should call my family. Let them know it's done." Daniel nodded. "The marriage certificate will be filed today." "Emma, this wasn't how I imagined we'd end up." Emma met his gaze. "I know, I'm sorry." Daniel's expression softened slightly. "Don't apologize for choosing yourself." Then he left. Emma watched him go. Emma. The inheritance transferred within 3 days. Emma suddenly controlled 20% of Whitmore Industries. The board meeting where this was announced felt like vindication and emptiness combined. Her father's surprise was evident. Victoria's shock crystallized into something harder. Emma accepted congratulations mechanically, the shares feeling less like freedom and more like expensive chains. Daniel received his first consulting payment and immediately moved into a better apartment. He sent Emma a brief thank you email, professional, distant. Emma replied with equal formality. They'd created a perfect business arrangement. She told herself this was exactly what she wanted. Her family's reaction evolved rapidly. Initially, her mother seemed genuinely happy Emma had married. But as the inheritance reality settled, questions emerged. Why hadn't Emma mentioned the shares before? Why did the marriage timing align so perfectly? Victoria was less subtle. She cornered Emma at Sunday dinner. "This was planned," she accused. "You manipulated Daniel into marrying you for grandfather's money." Emma didn't deny it. Victoria's eyes widened. "You admit it?" Emma shrugged. "I did what I needed to do." Victoria's voice rose. "You're unbelievable. You've always been jealous of me. Now you're buying success because you can't earn it yourself." Emma felt something cold settle in her chest. "I'm done justifying myself to you, Victoria. Believe whatever helps you sleep." The family dynamic shifted. Her parents became more interested in Emma's opinions, her strategies, her plans for the shares. Emma recognized the attention for what it was, conditional love tied to her newfound power. She participated in family dinners with increasing detachment, observing rather than engaging. When Victoria announced she was pregnant 2 months after her wedding, Emma offered appropriate congratulations and felt nothing. Marcus's recovery progressed remarkably. He returned to work full-time, his limp barely noticeable. Emma watched her sister fuss over him with performative concern that seemed increasingly hollow. During one family gathering, Emma caught Marcus's eye. He smiled, something knowing in the expression. Emma felt unease prickle her spine but pushed it away. The marriage arrangement with Daniel settled into routine. They maintained separate lives, communicating only about necessary logistics. Emma told herself this was easier. She'd gotten what she needed. Daniel had his compensation, clean, simple, effective. The hollowness she felt was irrelevant. She'd spent 21 years feeling hollow. This was familiar territory. 6 months into the marriage, Emma attended a charity gala Whitmore Industries sponsored. Daniel was there, required attendance for senior staff. They'd successfully avoided each other at company functions, but tonight, proximity was unavoidable. Emma watched him across the room, laughing with colleagues, completely at ease. He'd moved on. She should be happy about that. Victoria approached with Marcus, her pregnancy now visible. "Emma," she cooed. "You remember Marcus?" Emma nodded politely. Marcus's smile was warm. "Emma, I've been meaning to thank you properly." "For what?" Emma asked. Marcus's expression turned serious. "For helping me that day. Your wedding day. I know what you sacrificed." Emma felt Victoria stiffen. "It was nothing," Emma said. Marcus continued. "It meant everything. I was in genuine pain. If you hadn't let us take that car, I might have had permanent damage." Victoria's laugh was forced. Emma's always been understanding. "Haven't you, Em?" Emma studied her sister. Something in Victoria's expression seemed desperate, pleading. Emma changed the subject. The gala ended. Emma escaped to the parking garage. She sat in her car, trying to understand her unease. Marcus's gratitude had seemed genuine, but there was something underneath, something performative. 2 weeks later, Emma received an anonymous email. No subject line, just a video attachment. She almost deleted it. Curiosity won. The video showed security footage from the day of her wedding. Emma watched herself and Daniel at the altar, watched Victoria stand with her objection. Then the footage jumped. New angle. Marcus climbing into the decorated car, Victoria beside him, both laughing. Emma watched them celebrate, watched Victoria high-five Marcus, watched her sister pull out her phone and text someone. The timestamp showed this was 15 minutes before Victoria's supposed emergency message about Marcus needing his specialist. Emma's hands went numb. She replayed the video 3 times. Her sister had lied. There was no emergency. Marcus was fine. They'd orchestrated the entire disruption. Emma forwarded the video to Patricia Moore with a single question. "Is this evidence of fraud?" Patricia's response came within an hour. "Potentially, yes, if you can prove intent to manipulate." Emma stared at her phone. Proof. She had video of their celebration. She had medical records showing Marcus's actual condition that day. She had Victoria's pattern of emergencies that consistently benefited her. But pursuing this meant destroying her family, meant exposing Victoria's manipulation, meant confronting the reality that her sister had deliberately sabotaged her wedding. Emma sat with this knowledge for 3 days. She didn't tell Daniel, didn't tell anyone. She carried it alone, feeling its weight compress her chest. On the 4th day, Emma made her decision. She called Patricia. "I want to file for divorce from Daniel. Full disclosure of our arrangement. I'll return his consulting fees. I want clean separation." Patricia was silent for a beat. "Are you certain?" Emma was. She couldn't keep Daniel trapped in their business arrangement. He deserved freedom. Real freedom. The marriage had served its purpose. Her inheritance was secure, time to end it. The divorce papers were drafted within a week. Emma met Daniel at a neutral coffee shop to explain. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, his expression was complicated. "You're letting me go," he said finally. Emma nodded. "You shouldn't have been trapped in the first place." Daniel studied her. What changed? Emma almost told him about the video, almost explained Victoria's betrayal. Instead, she said simply, "I learned what I should have known years ago, that choosing myself doesn't require sacrificing others." Daniel absorbed this. "The divorce will take time." Emma knew. "I've structured it so you keep everything. Consider it payment for your patience." Daniel shook his head. "I don't want your money, Emma. I want..." He stopped. Emma waited. Daniel stood. "The papers are fair. I'll sign them." Then he left. Emma sat alone with her coffee, feeling lighter and heavier simultaneously. The divorce finalized 3 months later. Emma gave the video evidence to Victoria privately. Her sister watched it once, face draining of color. Emma spoke quietly. "I'm not exposing you. I'm not destroying your marriage or your reputation. But I need you to understand something. I'm done being your convenient sacrifice." Victoria tried to speak. Emma held up a hand. "You manipulated my wedding because you couldn't stand me having something first. I forgive you, but I'm finished with this family." Emma moved to a different city. She kept her shares in Whitmore Industries but managed them remotely. Her parents called occasionally. She answered sometimes. Victoria sent a long apology email Emma read once and never responded to. Marcus's career thrived. Victoria had her baby. Life continued. Emma built something new slowly. Therapy helped. Time helped more. She stopped measuring her worth by her family's attention, stopped disappearing to make space for others. She didn't date, wasn't ready, maybe wouldn't ever be. That was okay. 2 years after the divorce, Emma received a wedding invitation, Daniel's engagement to a woman named Sarah Chen. Emma studied the elegant card. She felt happiness for him, genuine and uncomplicated. She RSVP'd her attendance. At the ceremony, Emma sat in the back, watched Daniel promise forever to someone who chose him first. He looked peaceful, complete. After the ceremony, Daniel found Emma in the courtyard. "Thank you for coming," he said. Emma smiled. "Thank you for the invitation." They stood together comfortably. Sarah approached, curious and kind. Emma congratulated her sincerely. "You're marrying a good man." Sarah beamed. "I know." She excused herself to greet other guests. Daniel turned to Emma. "Are you happy?" Emma considered the question. "I'm learning to be," she answered honestly. "That's enough for now." Daniel nodded. "For what it's worth," he said quietly. "You taught me something important." Emma raised an eyebrow. "You taught me that love isn't about waiting for someone to see you. It's about seeing yourself clearly enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't." Emma felt tears threaten, but held them back. She left the reception early, drove to Charles Whitmore's grave like she had years before. This time she didn't cry. "Grandfather," she said to the stone, "I finally understand. You didn't give me those shares to secure a marriage. You gave them to me so I'd have the power to choose freedom." The wind picked up, warm now instead of cold. Emma stood. "Thank you," she whispered. She returned to her car. Her phone showed a message from Victoria, a photo of her daughter taking first steps. Emma studied the image. Her niece had Victoria's blonde hair, Charles Whitmore's eyes. Emma saved the photo. Maybe someday they'd rebuild something. Or maybe not. Either way, Emma would be fine. She drove home as sunset painted the sky orange and gold. Her apartment waited, small, but hers. Tomorrow she'd return to work she'd chosen, people she'd selected, a life she'd built without permission. The inheritance sat in her accounts, untouched except for what made her independent, power she'd finally learned to use for herself. Emma had spent 21 years invisible. Learning to be seen had required becoming willing to be alone. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. It was also the only thing that saved her. She'd loved Daniel, lost him, married him for convenience, set him free. Through it all, she'd learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people begging you to stay. She wouldn't call it a happy ending, but it was her ending, written by her choices, earned by her courage. That was enough. That was everything.